I've skated in these skates and in these specific wheels for the past year, and as you can see, they need replacing. While researching what wheels to buy, I began wondering what would happen if I gave my skates a better rocker by adding a different size wheel to the middle. Ice skates, both figure and hockey, have a little curve to it to allow you to maneuver, and that's called the rocker. The rocker is what allows us to be able to do turns and spins, and a lot of other really intricate maneuvers. With inline blades, there's two ways that we can have a rocker. We can either have the rocker built into the frame, or we can put a different sized wheel in the middle to create a rocker. For example, with Snow White's, you actually have the rocker built into the frame, so you have 3 identical wheels. But with Golden Horse, you actually have to have 2 smaller wheels and a larger wheel in the middle to create the rocker. I thought that I could actually take my frames, which already have the rocker built into them, and take a bigger wheel and put it in the middle to give myself a higher, more pronounced rocker. So instead of buying a new set of wheels, I instead bought a really generic 76mm wheel to test out 3 different places where I could put it and see which rocker was the best. So with 4 different rocker configurations, I tested going forwards, going backwards, doing 3 turns, doing forward inside edges and backward outside edges. Here's what I found. Quick disclaimer, I filmed this bit after I filmed everything else, so I actually had about a minute of getting used to not being on weird wheels again. I'll be pulling these clips back up to compare them to each other. Here I'm actually trying to show the rocker, but with a 76mm wheel at the front, the blade was rendered rockerless, which is exactly the opposite of what I wanted. The middle wheel was still somehow making contact with the ground to spin a bit, but it didn't hold any weight. The wheel refused to let me turn on it, so my second try was a 3-turn with my weight fully on the toe stop, which didn't work. I couldn't control the edge very well. I turned because I was forcing my body to move towards the wall and my weight just carried me haphazardly. I started swinging and moving my leg to counterbalance my wonky blade, which probably made everything worse. The 2 wheels being so far apart gave me almost no maneuverability. My guess is that larger spirals along the outside of a rink would have been possible, but my edges were hard to control. I don't know if I kept working on it, if I would be able to learn how to skate like that, but I doubt tight circles or curves like the entry into a scratch spin would be possible like this. This was mostly as a joke. I didn't expect anything productive to happen with the wheel at the back, and I was right. The heel felt way higher than it was supposed to be, which made me overcompensate by shifting my weight towards the toe stop. Gliding forwards became an issue because of how weirdly placed everything was. My back wheel popped really far off the ground, and my weight was entirely over the toe stop, to the point that even the front wheel was a few millimeters off the ground. Both edges had really bad control. It could just be me not being used to the weight distribution, but also having such a far distance between the 2 wheels touching the ground probably contributed to the lack of control. It actually wasn't too bad. The circle near the end of the entry wasn't as small as I'd wished it to be, but it wasn't undoable. Because I wanted to naturally shift my weight forwards, I was actually staying off my back wheel. Of course, without a rocker to let me do that, there was also a little weight on the back, but not nearly as much as it usually would be. Not having a rocker was really detrimental for my skating. This was the plan from the beginning, to add a rockered wheel to my already rockered frames. The moment I stood up, I felt extremely top-heavy. I was also extremely aware of switching between back and front wheels. I kept toe-stopping the ground, which I thought might be something I could train out of me, like when I first learned how to skate with toe picks. The 3-turn was interesting in that the issue wasn't so much with the turn, but with the edge coming out of it. You can see that my weight was over the front wheel with minimal use of the toe stop, but as soon as my weight comes back to the middle wheel, I lost my balance. I think what happened was that in my effort to compensate for the weird balance, I leaned more heavily into the inside of my blade. This might be something I could learn to deal with later. My weight carried across the blade weirdly and forced me to do a 3-turn. When I normally skate, there doesn't tend to be an issue with me shifting my weight slightly forwards or backwards across the rocker, but with a bigger difference between the back half and the front half of my blade, whenever my weight moved across, I'd lose my balance. I think on ice there doesn't tend to be a big issue with more pronounced rockers, but on wheels there's only 2 surfaces that you can really skate on, so a higher rocker can really mess with skating. I think some of these configurations can be learned, but for the most part, I think I'll stick with my regular wheels. Quick side note, rotating your wheels in a certain way is a way that you can actually give yourself a subtle rocker. If you'd like to see a video on that or more videos about wheels, replacing them, or caring for them, let me know.